Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about government imposter scams, how to spot them, how to avoid them, and what to do if you think you have been targeted by one. All right, let's jump in. What we're going to be talking about. So we're going to talk about some of the most common types of government imposter scams, how to spot government imposter scams. We'll be reviewing some of the things that we always review because all scams kind of follow a similar sort of set of tactics. So we'll have some revisiting of familiar signs to look out for, as well as some specific ones for government imposter scams, how to safeguard against these scams, and what to do if you have been a victim of one of them. So government imposter scams are ever prevalent. They've been around for a long time, and they continue to be really prevalent. And we're seeing kind of the same ones play out over and over again. And yet they continue to be very effective scams for scammers to perpetuate. So they keep coming. At this point, there was a survey released on November 27th, so actually 2 days ago, by Interact, that had 42% of respondents said that they have been targeted by government impersonation scams. This makes it, according to this particular survey, the most common form of targeted scam. And this is in Canada. So, we often see similar trends in the US as well. So we can assume that this is a very, very popular type of scam out there, in both countries and internationally. So what are government imposter scams or government impersonation scams? So government impersonation scam involves an individual or else a group, an entity, pretending to be a representative or a body of government, a government agency, in order to deceive and draw money or personal information or both from a victim. Now, often these scams use phone calls, but they use various forms of communication channels to commit their scam. So this does include phone call. It also does include email and text message. So this is not just about getting that, robocall, fake IRS or CRA phone call, right? We're getting these on all fronts. And so we need to know how to protect ourselves against each sort of channel that they may attack from. Now, what are the types of government impersonation scams? So we're going to talk about 4 in general today, 4 types. However, these can kind of go beyond. And the thing about government impersonation scams, or really any form of scam, is that they tend to use the entity or the government body as the cover for the scam, but the actual thing that they ask or do might vary. So we have a lot of variety in terms of how these scams are perpetuated, or what they necessarily ask for in the scam, what they try to get out of you. But really, the main thing that they share is that they're pretending to be some sort of government entity. So very commonly, we'll see IRS or CRA scams. We might see Social Security or social insurance scams. And then we'll see Medicare and Medicaid scams. These are very common in the States, not so much as common in Canada with our healthcare system, though there are particular scams that do happen there. They often don't target necessarily an individual, but the system as a whole. So we'll look at those a bit. And then we have law enforcement scams as well. So starting off with the one I'm sure we're all familiar with, I get these calls once a week. I don't know about you, but IRS or CRA scams. So in this scam, a scammer contacts a target claiming to be an employee of either the CRA or the IRS. They will state that you maybe have an outstanding case against you, that you potentially owe back taxes, maybe that you are eligible for some sort of refund even. Maybe it's a positive thing that they try to spin at you. You have an unpaid balance. Maybe you've committed a financial crime. So they'll come at you with any sort of reason, often preying on our worst fears, right? I know every time I do my taxes, especially when I do them myself, I get really scared that I did something wrong and I've accidentally, frauded the system, because I just don't know how to do my taxes properly, right? So they prey on fears that we all very commonly have, that we've, owe more than we think we do, or that, we messed something up, or something bad has gone along the way. So they'll use any of these things that we might expect or fear, and they'll threaten maybe arrests, threaten fines. In many cases, they may even threaten deportation to those who are landed immigrants. So they'll use a lot of different tactics to make you fearful, to make you want to act quickly. And then the scammers will often request payment. And again, like any scam, they're probably going to request it in some strange way: transfer, prepaid cards, gift cards, or crypto, some way that doesn't trace back to them. But this is often how these scams play out. They use things that we already know, right? They're not reinventing the wheel here. They're playing on pre-existing fears, pre-existing systems that we recognize and feel we can trust, and then turn them on their head to create a place of fear, right? We also have Social Security / insurance scams. So in these cases, they may be after your money, or they may just be after your social insurance number or your social security number, so that they can commit identity fraud. So this will play out somewhat similarly, right? They're a trusted body who understand, what they do and what their place is in your life and in the government as a whole. And they'll come at you with some sort of claim that there's been illegal activity under, your social security or social insurance number. Maybe you didn't do it, but there's been illegal activity, and now, you're going to be fined, or you're going to be jailed unless you do this, unless you correct it. A common one is the cost of living adjustment activation, where they'll say, there's a cost of living adjustment adjustment happening. You need to activate it. So you actually need to go to this link. You need to give us your social security number so that we can make sure that this actually gets done and gets put through for you, and that all the updates are done. Those things are usually automatic. You'll never need to provide that sort of information. Also, if it is in fact social security, they should know your social security number, right? So that stuff will not be asked. Or some other cost adjustment or bogus benefit that they're claiming that they'll give you as long as you give the information. This one very commonly does deal with just getting your information out of you. It is less likely, because it's hard to probably to convince you to do this, to give direct money out of these scams. Often they're just looking for your information so that they can then perpetuate an identity fraud using it. So oftentimes they're just getting information out of you, your social security, your social insurance number. Then we have Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare scams. So a couple different ways these can play out, and a couple different ways they may target these scams. First of all, free offers. So this may come from not necessarily a government official directly. This may come from some sort of other medical provider or sales team. They'll promise free medical supplies, care, or medication, and then they'll exploit this to collect your Medicare information for fraudulent claims. So they'll claim, oh, we can give you this, free service, this free supplies, and we'll just sign you up. We just need your information. And they take it and commit fraudulent claims on your behalf. There may be someone calling you, claiming to be for Medicare, pressuring you to switch plans. They're often posing as some sort of Medicare official. They may offer a pre-approved plan with lower costs, but insist that you pay a fee for enrollment. So they're not necessarily giving you more. Maybe you just need to pay to switch over to a better plan. Card renewal notices scams are really common as well. Calls demanding activation or else renewal or upgrades for your Medicare card, requesting your Medicare number, again, so that they can use that number to commit fraud, or else a payment for processing of that renewal. There's also ones that come in as coverage threats. So scammers might claim that there's some sort of issue with your account, some sort of improper information, or maybe that there was some sort of fraud committed in your account, and then you'll be liable. So they'll threaten to cancel your benefits unless you immediately provide some sort of personal information to join a new plan or to correct the issue so that they can look into your account and figure out what's going on. And then refund offers. So scams suggesting the eligibility for plan-related refunds. So scammers may ask you for your Medicare number, your bank details, to get some sort of refund that you're owed from Medicare. So these are common. Again, obviously these ones target adults specifically much of the time. So ones to look out for here, again, very common in the US. As I said, these types of scams, these healthcare related scams, not as common in the government in imposter scam sphere in Canada, maybe for private healthcare, but for provincially provided healthcare. These frauds often target the system rather than the individual, though this doesn't mean that they don't pose a threat to the individual. So scammers might somehow get your health card details, say your OHIP number, and claim health benefits under your name, put in fraudulent benefit claims. Doctors may also carry out billing fraud. This has been known to happen from time to time as well. And this may not directly impact you in the moment, but if someone is using your health information, your health card number, to do some sort of fraud, this may in turn eventually impact your coverage. You may have a holdup, there might be an investigation into that account, and that might affect your ability to use that service. So something you want to be aware of. You are able to see what claims are put through or what appointments are put through your health card system. You can usually, I think your primary care doctor can usually see that for you, but there's ways to check in on that. But again, not as common in Canada, but it still happens. It impacts, like I said, the system more so than the individual in many cases. And lastly, we have law enforcement scams. So there are a lot of ones that happen under law enforcement scams you can imagine. But common ones to look out for are as follows. So a return to sender scam, as it might be known. So in this scam, basically, you're contacted by some sort of law enforcement. You're told that a package addressed to you contains illegal goods. So, you might receive an automated call, email, text from a delivery company about a package. It connects you to a person claiming to work for that delivery company. Victim, you were then transferred to the police, and you're told the package addressed to them contains illegal goods, and it's been intercepted perhaps by police or by customs. Then you're told that you might face arrest or else, again, deportation, very common in this type of scam. And you're told that maybe you need to pay a fine to avoid jail time, and that you need to participate in some investigation. So stuff like that. Package containing illegal goods has been intercepted by some sort of law enforcement. It was directed to you, and you need to pay a fine to avoid some sort of, again, jail or deportation. Another one that happens from time to time is a laundry card. So you'll receive some sort of communication, again, from someone claiming to work for law enforcement, told that a bank card in your name has been used to launder money or a money laundering scheme, and that your accounts are going to be locked. Then you're told that you must help with the investigation in order to clear your name. Perhaps you'll be told to withdraw the money from the account and deposit it into a secure system. Maybe this is via cryptocurrency, Bitcoin being a common one, while the investigation continues. And then the victim is told that money will be returned at the end of investigation, but it isn't. So again, using these systems, these bodies of government or law enforcement that we're familiar with, we know, using charges or else illegal activity that we're familiar with, money laundering, that we know can be actually done as a scam, right? We've seen this in relationship scams that Sometimes relationship scams will be used as a ploy to use someone's account for money laundering. So they're doing something that could happen to us, is, could be almost done as a double scam as well, to make us feel like this could be really real. These things are feasible, knowing what we know about this institution or this type of crime, and that we are more likely not to think about it and participate. There also might be ones like missed jury duty or a missed court date, and you simply have to pay a fine to make up for that. Or you've broken a law and you owe a fine, and maybe it's something as small as running a red light or anything like that, but you've simply broken a law. You have to pay a fine to avoid jail time or to avoid any sort of further legal action, and those ones are common as well. But yeah, and again, you can imagine that these can proliferate into other types of scenarios, but really the end goal in this is often money, whereas with social insurance scams or even healthcare scams, Medicare scams, one of the goals can be your information to collect money. Often with law enforcement scams, the end goal is often money. It's pointing towards just give us money and your name will be cleared sort of situation. Now, there are specific scams targeting Asian communities in Canada and the US. Again, I know this to be specifically true in Canada. I'm sure it's happening in the US too. I've seen it more so reported in Canada, but I believe it's also happening in the US. So members of Asian communities, specifically landed immigrants, are being targeted by sources claiming to be the Beijing police, or else Interpol, or else a Chinese consulate. They're playing up oftentimes the package scam that we talked about previously. So the scams do vary, but again, the popular ploy is that they claim customs intercepted a letter or a package in your name and implicate you in a fraud. For example, the message may state that customs stopped a suspicious package containing many bank cards, and that you're subject to investigation. And again, you have to pay some sort of fee or else do something in order to clear your name or sort something out. So this one is a particular one that faces Asian communities, but we can imagine that this could play out for a number of different immigrant communities, deportation being a common threat that's pushed or posed in these law enforcement scams. Again, playing on a very common fear for anyone who might be a landed immigrant, and also playing on maybe a lessened understanding of the law enforcement system, or a perceived lessened understanding of the law enforcement system from someone who maybe not be from US or Canada. Maybe you just think, maybe I don't understand the system well enough. Maybe this is right? So playing on any sort of thing like that or fears that are there. So how do scammers in these cases contact you? So 3 ways: phone call, email, or text message. We may face these sort of scams most commonly over the phone. Again, I know that's where I get the majority of my contacts through, CRA scams or IRS scams. But they do still happen over email or text message. So these are not particular to phone calls, though we may experience them there most commonly. We still can receive these communications through email and text message. Something to be aware of. Be aware that scammers can spoof numbers, right? This is something that's always really important to remember. Scammers can spoof numbers to make it look like the real deal. And maybe we're not really familiar with the underlying phone number. I get calls again for the CRA that are fake, that just have a random number, but underneath them in the caller ID section, they do say CRA. Right? So I could do an easy search, but I would just see that and look at it. So they can spoof numbers, they can spoof caller IDs to make it look like the real deal. So we can't always take that at face value. So we have to look for those other signs. And there's signs that we can look at right away that come before even the content of what someone's saying. So always, the call is unsolicited. We've had no other communication type. We've not tried to have some sort of outbound communication. This call is unsolicited, coming from seemingly nowhere. Another thing is when you pick up a call, there's a noticeable pause when you pick up before anyone speaks, especially common with robocalls, right? They're waiting to hear something in order to start the message. The start call does start as a robocall. Again, it's a way just to kind of bait you, see if you're willing to bite, and then pull you in. So if you start then actually speaking or saying something, maybe that will initiate a call. But again, they're focusing on numbers. They're not necessarily focusing on doing a really great job. They're just trying to get as many vulnerable people as possible. So if you show any sign of participating, of biting, that's when they might act. And the caller uses a generic greeting, doesn't know anything about you, right? So they'll call claiming to be something, but they don't have no information necessarily to back up who they think you are and why they're calling you. It's very generic, what they seem to be going after, and they can't provide any additional information about you or why specifically they need to speak to you on this matter. Next, we have emails. So here's an example of an email. This is the subject. This is the FBI headquarters, and we are intercepting all financial emails coming to you, right? This is playing on a common fear that the government is spying on us, and in this case, they're spying on us, and they've, intercepted emails that show that we've done something wrong. So here's one. But with emails, always things to look out for. Again, to be aware, just like calling, that scammers can create emails that look really close to the real thing. Either they create an email address that very closely follows, maybe the actual address or URL of a real email, maybe with a small difference. They can also change the name on the account to look like it's coming from somewhere else, and we sometimes can't see the actual underlying email right away. So being aware of this. But again, those instant signs of a scam email: one, it's unsolicited, as always. Inconsistencies in that, those addresses, the links, and the domain. So, the link or email is telling you to email back, and the body of the email doesn't match the email it's coming from. The links aren't leading to where you'd expect them to lead, a government website, right? Grammar and spelling errors. Again, the thing to always remember with scams is that they are relying on sheer numbers. The more of these communications they send out, the more chances they have to scam people. They're not necessarily relying on doing a really great job making it look and sound really real, though they can do that quite well at this point, especially thanks to AI. But just grammar and spelling errors are very common as well. So looking out for those. Suspicious attachments, just if there's some sort of attachment that there's a reason for the attachment, or that it just has a strange file ending or extension that you're not familiar with. And then things like logos or graphics that aren't quite right or are pixelated. So if you're familiar with the logo, for the FBI, but it looks slightly off, or else the logo that they used within the email signature is slightly pixelated, that may be a sign that they've pulled it off of the FBI website. They didn't get the full resolution picture, and now it's pixelated, their email signature, things like that. And then text messages. Text messages are becoming increasingly common. So here's one from Service Ontario. As you know, we've removed license plate stickers on all vehicles, so we are now giving back $120 Canadian. Get a hold of it here. Click. So beware with text messages. They often try to lead you off the text message into a link. So they often will insert these simplified links into text so you can't tell where they lead. You can see this right here. It's just a short.g. This is just a way that people can short form links to make it easier to fit them into smaller bodies of text. It's really commonly used on social media as well, but oftentimes they do these in text. It shortens it, but it also makes it so you can't really see where it's leading you. But again, signs. The text is unsolicited, always a thing. Spelling and grammar, short and sweet, especially with text messages. This is very common, trying to lead you out of the text message as soon as possible to click on a link, because they don't want to give you too much information there. They don't want to make it look crazy. People don't often read long text. We're used to short communication. Another thing is that it uses an 11-digit unidentified number. So it's not like looking like a common phone number. It's the kind of phone number that we often see when we get confirmation codes from a login, right? And there are just inaccuracies in general, right? Maybe it's something like this, and maybe you don't own a car. So, you're just getting it. You can just tell that this is just a generic message that's going out to everyone. And then general warning signs that go kind of across the board with any sort of scam like this. First of all, it's just that time of year, especially tax time. Be aware of what's going on in the world at large when these things happen. We saw it also in the text message, right? The license plate things, when certain government policies are imposed or certain laws change or something's happening, you might see an influx of a scam directly related to that thing, to tax time, or some sort of change in how we use like the license plate stickers or whatever it is, or it's Medicare renewal time, whatever it is, right? It's that time of year. Those scams are going to be more prevalent at that time of a year when they know that people are thinking about those things or aware of those things in general. So it doesn't seem so out of the blue. That being said, these can happen any time of the year. They're not, only, at the particular time of year that thing is happening, but they just may be more common. So thinking about that, being extra vigilant about those sort of communications when it's at a time when we might be stressed or thinking about those particular, government-related issues. Then happens a lot during, elections too, right? Lots of scams around there as well. But generally demands for sensitive information, specifically through unsecure mediums. So needing you to give over information over the phone, over email, whatever, or through some sort of website, right? Your social insurance or social security number, health card number, Medicare number, driver's license, any of that information. Sometimes you do have to use this information, right? When I log into my CRA account, I have to actually give my social insurance number to log in. Like I have to provide that information. It's a secure network through which I do it, and I know that website and I trust it, so I do it there, but I wouldn't do it over the phone. So thinking about the medium through which you're passing this information over, always that sense of urgency, the threats, you are threatened with deportation, you're threatened with jail time, you're threatened with your coverage being canceled if you don't act immediately. Nothing is ever that urgent that you can't put down the communication, find the proper communication channel, find the phone number, and call them directly, and just call them back. Pushing you towards a link or attachment, right? Again, this is very common in email or text message, wanting you to right away get off of the email or out of the text message to further it along. So that's where that short and sweet comes in. Click on this link right now to deal with it or to get more information or whatever it is. Demands for money in odd ways, right? Transfer, gift cards, crypto, ways that are less traceable, that leave them less vulnerable to being caught. And just demands for financial information, bank information, credit card information, and the like. So how to handle scam text calls and emails. So if you receive one of these things, if you haven't done anything with them yet, you just have them in your phone, in your inbox. If it's a text, delete it, mark it as spam, block the number. If it's a call, don't speak. Hold until you hear something, don't speak, let them do the talking first, right? Even if you hear nothing, don't say hello, just don't speak. Hang up, block the number. And an email, mark it as spam, and block the sender. Again, this won't stop them from continuing to come, but it will at least deal with that one communication. And the less we interact with the scammers in any form, the less they'll bother us the second we engage. They see us as vulnerables, and then we might be then getting more communications from them because we're someone that they view as vulnerable. And always verify before you trust. If you are unsure about a communication you have received from a government department, verify the communication. Contact the official communication channel of the government department, whether it be a website or a phone number. Go to Google, look it up, double check it. Go to your mail, see if you have that number on official mail that you've received. Log into your online accounts, right? I'll log into my CIRA account, your ID Me account if you're in the States, and the site should be secure. See if there's communications in there. I know that, for example, in my CIRA account, which is Canadian Revenue Agency for those who are American, there's a message portal, right? I don't receive messages from the CRA outside of that portal. There's only messages in my account. That is the only way they communicate with me. So that's how I check it. I log in. They will not email me directly. They may email me to say I have a message, but they will not give me any details about what it says. And then search the message you received, followed by scam, to see if others have received similar messages, right? These scams are often not unique. They're perpetuated in large numbers to try to get as many people as possible. So you're probably not the first victim. You're probably not the first person to receive this message. So give it a Google, see if it's coming up. And be proactive. So first of all, protect your personal information, right? The less information that you give out that's out there, the less vulnerable you'll be to be a target of these scams. So invest in a good protection system. Aura has a great one. Ideally, it's one that also comes with a VPN. Then on top of that, only use safe websites. Ideally, it's also a protection system that uses a password. It comes with a password manager. Again, Aura system does that, and they have great fraud protection. So something to check out or consider if you feel particularly vulnerable. Investing in a good protection system for yourself. So you don't have to do as much of the thinking, so you know that you have that backup system and a way of protecting yourself. But on top of that, don't overshare online. Be aware of what information you're sharing, especially if it's some sort of security question, especially if it's a security question that you maybe use for your CRA or IRS login pages online. Review your privacy settings, whether that be on social media accounts or when you're downloading an app, review their privacy policies. Make sure you're not oversharing information, and always make sure that you discard information properly, whether that's actual paper copies of things, making sure you're shredding them properly, or when you get a new device, making sure that before you dispose of your old device, you're making sure you clear any sort of sensitive information off of it, that you wipe the phone, the computer, the tablet completely clean of its data before you give it away or even just throw it out. And register for the Do Not Call registry. In the US, you can register for it at donotcall.gov. In Canada, it's lnte-dncl.gc.ca. It's a bit more complicated because it has the French acronym and then the English acronym. All the websites do that in this overly complicated way, but those are the two links to register for the Do Not Call registry in each country. And if you are the victim of a scam, you need to report it as soon as you can. So if you're going to report, do make sure that you collect and record any information you can about your encounter with a fraudster. This means documenting all communications, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and taking screenshots and recordings where possible. Collect as much information as you can about the scam and then report it. Also, lock things down before you report. Stop any payments to fraudsters. Freeze your credits and accounts. Notify your financial institutions and change the passwords on your online accounts. And then report it. Report fraud to the Federal Trade Commission if you're in the US. It's reportfraud.ftc.gov. You can call them at 1-877-FTC-HELP. It's 382-4357. And contact your local law enforcement. In Canada, you want to contact the Anti-Fraud Center. It's the Anti-Fraud Center-centreantifraud.ca or call 1-88-495-8501. Right, and if you have any additional questions about this topic, you can always call us at Cyber Seniors toll free
at 844-217-3057 or visit us at cyberseniors.org.